This is the grammar video for middle school, and it is April 15th, and it is Wednesday. And so we are on page 169. Yesterday we talked about simple sentences and compound sentences. Today we're going to move on and talk about a complex sentence. So this can be really confusing between the difference between a compound sentence and a complex sentence, mostly because their names are very similar. So let's really pay attention today and work through that. I want you to make sure that you're using the Marco Polo answers I give you after you've done the worksheet. Go back and check it. If you're like, I got all of these wrong, that's okay. You still get credit for working on it, but let's figure out why. Why is it that you're getting it wrong, okay? Make sure that you're asking for help. Okay, so complex sentences, page 169. Like compound sentence, a complex sentence consists of at least two clauses. So in this case, we're still going to have two clauses, okay? Now, however, a compound sentence contains two independent. Remember, each one could stand alone as its own sentence. However, a complex sentence contains one independent and at least one dependent. It could have more dependent clauses. So what that means is one could be a sentence, and then you have another part that cannot be its own sentence. Okay, it's dependent on this one to be a complete sentence. Okay, so that's the difference. A compound sentence has two independent clauses. That means they can each be their own sentence. And a complex sentence has an independent, it can be its own sentence, and it has a dependent, which cannot be its own sentence. That's a complex sentence, okay? After the preachers rejected his idea, Carey explained his beliefs in a pamphlet. So let's look at that before the comma, okay? Preachers rejected, okay? After the preachers rejected his idea. Now, can that be a complete sentence? No. Why? Because after makes it where we have to finish that thought. So we can't just say, after you go to the store, and then you go, well, what am I going to do after I go to the store? Right? Because that's dependent on me giving you another sentence. Now, Carey explained his beliefs in a pamphlet. That is independent. So that's an independent clause and a dependent clause. Therefore, you have a complex sentence. To determine whether a sentence is compound or complex, first find all the subjects and all the predicates. Then match the subjects to the predicates. Now you have found the clauses. Next, look for any subordinating words, after, before, things like that. If the clause contains a subordinating word, the clause is dependent. If it does not, the clause is independent. Now count the number of dependent and independent clauses in your sentence. If there are two independent clauses, the sentence is dependent. Okay? If there are two independent clauses, the sentence is compound. If there are one or more dependent clauses and only one independent clause, the sentence is complex. Okay? So let's look at our examples. The English preachers rejected his idea, but Carey obeyed God's word. Okay, so preachers, subject. What is being said about preachers? Preachers rejected, verb. Now, if you'll notice, they put a transitive verb. They're doing direct objects. So through this, I just want you to find the subjects and the predicates. Okay, so preachers, subject. What is being said about preachers? Preachers rejected. Okay, now let's find our next subject. Carey, subject. What is being said about Carey? Carey obeyed, verb. Okay, so now we have two clauses. Now we have to go back and find, are they both independent clauses? If they are, then it's compound. If one is independent and the other one is dependent, then we have a complex sentence. So let's just read to the comma. The English preachers rejected his idea. That's independent. It was a complete sentence. But, now let's start with Carey. Carey obeyed God's word. Is that a complete sentence? Yes. So that is a compound sentence because both of the clauses were independent. Let's look at the next one. Although the English preachers rejected his idea, Carey obeyed God's word. So let's look at the first sentence. Preachers, again, is the subject. Rejected is the verb. Carey is the subject. Obeyed is the verb. Now, let's split the sentences at the comma and listen to them. Although the English preachers rejected his idea, I hope you said, wow, that's dependent. That's not its own sentence. It can't stand alone. Therefore, it is a complex sentence. Okay, so I hope you're catching on to the difference between compound and complex. Let's look at, notice the example labeled compound has two independent clauses and complex had a dependent and a subordinating word. Okay? There is no coordinating conjunction joining the two clauses. The dependent clause may appear before the independent clause, after the independent clause, or even within the independent clause. So that one will be a little tricky, so let's look at it. Before Carey understood God's command, that is a dependent clause. He became a missionary to India. Independent. Okay, so after, the dependent clause is going to come after. The preachers realized their mistake when they read Carey's pamphlet. Okay, so notice the dependent clause is when they read Carey's pamphlet. Now it can come within. Carey's actions, while he was on the mission field, influenced many people. So in this case, actions is the subject and influenced is the verb. Okay, notice we could just take out while he was on the mission field and we could just do away with that, couldn't we? Because there's a sentence wrapped around it. In this case, within the mission field, while he was on the mission field, is a dependent clause, but it's stuck right in the middle of the independent clause wrapped on either side of it. So we have to be really careful with what the subject is and what the verb is that goes with it. Okay, so let's look at 8-5. Today you're doing 8-5, 8-6, and 8-8. So we are skipping 8-7 today, so you do not have to do 8-7. So 8-5, 8-6, 8-8. Okay? Now, this one tells you to label the sentence pattern. I just want you to label the subjects and the verbs, okay, and then figure out which ones go together, just in case that dependent clause is within the independent clause, okay? We're going to place a parentheses around any dependent clauses, and then it says label each sentence over on the left, simple, compound, complex, okay? So, number 1, in the early 1800s, mail delivery to California from east of the Mississippi River could take several weeks. Okay, so who or what is the sentence about? The sentence is about delivery, subject. What is being said about delivery? Delivery could take, that's a helping verb and a verb, okay? Do we see any other subjects in that sentence? No. That means it is a simple sentence and mark it with an S. Number 2, two Missouri businessmen devised a plan for faster mail service after they realized the need. So who or what is the sentence about? The sentence is about businessmen. Businessmen devised, verb. Okay, so we have businessmen devised. Now, let's read that part of the sentence. Two Missouri businessmen devised a plan for faster mail service, right? That's the independent clause. So we have one independent clause. So now we need to know if it's a compound sentence or a complex sentence. After they realized the need, who or what is the sentence about? The sentence is about they. What is being said about they? They realized, verb. So here we have a subject and a verb. Can we say after they realized the need as its own sentence? No. So it's dependent, so you need to put a parentheses in front of after, and after the word need. So after they realize the need, and that is dependent, so that makes it a complex sentence. So we should write CX for number 2. All right, so I hope that gets you started. Let's do one more so we can see, practice one more. Let's do number 3. The men brought 400 horses and hired approximately 80 riders. This new business was the Pony Express. Okay, so who or what is the sentence about? The sentence is about men. Men brought and hired. So you had a compound verb there. Does that make it a compound sentence? No, it's okay that independent clause has a compound verb. Okay, so that's one sentence. Is it independent or dependent? The men brought 400 horses and hired approximately 80 riders. That's independent. So now we have an independent clause. We need to see if the next clause is independent, independent or dependent, so we can see what kind of sentence it is. This new business was the Pony Express. Business, subject. What is being said about business? Business was, so that's a linking verb. So you can put verb there. Okay, so we have a subject and a verb. Now, that's a clause. This new business was the Pony Express. Can it stand on its own? It can. So it's another independent. So we have two independent clauses. What does that mean? It means we have a compound sentence. So we would write CD in the blank. Okay, so I hope you're grasping the difference between a simple sentence, a compound sentence, and a complex sentence. Okay, so you'll finish those. On 8.6, you're just marking it. You don't have to do the parentheses. You don't have to do anything except label the sentence in this one as a simple sentence, a compound sentence, or a complex sentence. Now, if it helps you to label so that you can figure out the correct answer, please do that. Okay, and then we're skipping 8.7, and then we're moving on to 8.8. Now, 8.8 says they've got, actually, let's not do 8.8. I'm not worried about that one either. So let's actually just focus on 8. Let's do 8.5 and 8.6, and then I will send you the answers a little bit later on today. I want you to check those because we are going to have a test tomorrow, which means you need to go back through your chapter and make sure you know what an independent clause is, a dependent clause, simple sentence, compound sentence, complex sentence. Those are the things that you need to know for your test tomorrow. Okay, your test will be open book. Okay, so you can use that to help you, but it's not open teacher and it's not open friend. Okay, good job, guys.